Okay, does that make sense? This is really important, guys. The more math you learn, the stupider you become. Okay, but this goes against, say, philosophy or teaching, right? The older you get, the wiser you become. Why? Because the information that you're learning, you can apply to reality and then figure out what information makes sense as you test this information against reality, okay? All right. Okay. So then the question then is, why would they do this? And the answer is very simple: to make you stupid. Okay. So let's just use an analogy. Let's do a thought experiment. The sky is blue, right? So we know the sky is blue, and now we're like, okay, why is the sky blue? And is it always blue? And why are certain things blue? Okay. From this very principle, the sky is blue, you can now start to ask more questions. You can, based on this idea, start to reason out more things, okay? Does that make sense? But let's just say, I change it, I say, the sky is red. You're like, no, the sky is blue. I'm saying, no, the sky is red. If you do not say the sky is red, you are a heretic. I will burn you at the stake. And you're like, okay, all right. So what you're saying is this. You're saying that blue is red, red is blue. And I'm like, no. Blue is blue, red is red. The sky is red. And you're like, that makes no sense. I'm just like, okay, well then I don't care. Because if you do not say the sky is red, I will burn you at the stake. Okay, I will fail you in school. Okay, do you understand? So another way of saying this is, your brain, the way it processes information is by using logic, right? Okay, so think about building. Think about building. Okay? Think about building. Okay? Well, this makes sense, right? You're just stacking blocks on top of each other to build a building, right? But let's just say I say no, this is what the building looks like. Okay, this is empty. You're like, well, that makes no sense. Okay? So what I've done by forcing the idea of the Holy Trinity onto you is I've basically taken a part of your logical system, of your brain, and emptied it out. So it's impossible for you to connect things, okay? Because from this, what you can do is say, oh, now I can just keep on building more things, right? But if the principle is there's a layer that is unseen or unknowable, you can't build on top of it. Okay? So your brain ceases to be able to process and be creative. Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah?
And I saw people who learn math well and also they have strong ability in computer science. They all work in Silicon Valley and they are wealthy. But I think that also aligns our concept that they are pursuing the materialistic and they are, the world is ruled by Satan. Is that true?
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about this later. Okay. But yeah, if you work in Silicon Valley, you are a materialistic person who is incapable of thinking spiritually. Yes, that is correct. Also remember that people who do computer engineering and do mathematics, they're at the best in their 20s and 30s. By the time they reach over 40, they kind of burn out, okay? Because, for your brain to process all this, it eventually burns out, okay? Does that make sense? So again, I hate to say this, but math makes you stupid, all right? All right. Is that clear, guys? Any questions? Okay. But as you can see, what's happening is that because people are forced to learn this, they don't want to learn this. And this starts a series of wars within the Roman Empire because Constantine and the Byzantine Empire is going to enforce this orthodoxy onto every Christian church. And this starts a series of wars, okay? At the same time, the Byzantines, they are fighting the Sassanid Persian. Sassanid Persia, okay? Egypt, the Levant. And this is Arabia. Okay, so guys, this is really important. This is a time in history, this is about 500 to 600, where there's a lot of conflict going on, okay? Remember, the first major conflict is between the Byzantine and Sassanid Persians, okay? The second major conflict is the church orthodoxy against the independent church franchises, okay? So the Byzantine Empire is trying to enforce the orthodoxy on all different churches who refuse the Holy Trinity because it's such a silly idea, okay? What this is going to do is it's going to force Christians over to the Sassanids as well as Arabia, the desert, okay? And these are called the Nestorians. And again, they believe that Jesus is a divine messenger as opposed to God on earth, okay? Also, we have the Jews as well, okay? Because the Jews keep on resisting against the Romans because the Romans forced the Jews to obey Christianity. And so the Jews escape into Arabia, okay? And at the same time, the Jews want to return to Jerusalem. Right? Now, what's interesting is that most people don't know this, but Arabia is, at this point in history, the most energetic, open, and cohesive society in the Middle East, okay? So first of all, it's open because Arabia has always been a point of trade between the Levant, Egypt, and the Indus Valley civilization, okay, India. Okay, so Arabia, they do a lot of trading, but they also are great fighters because they're great mercenaries. Why? Because as the Sassanids and the Romans fight more and more, the Arabians are recruited in as mercenaries for their armies. And as such, they learn the most innovative warfare. And they're poor as well, so they're really good fighters. Okay? And now what's happening is that the Arabians, the Arabs, are being exposed to new religions, the Nestorian Christianity, as well as Judaism, okay? And both preach the coming of the Messiah. Okay? So Arabia is rising in energy, but the Byzantine Empire and the Sassanid Persians are decreasing in energy. Okay? The Byzantines are fighting too many wars, and they're imposing too much orthodoxy, which is turning people into slaves. And because the Sassanids are fighting the Byzantines in war, and as the Byzantines become more orthodox and become more bureaucratic, the Sassanids are forced to become much more bureaucratic as well, much more orthodox as well. And so the Nestorians are also being persecuted by the Sassanids. So the Jews want Jerusalem to return, and the Sassanid says to the Jews, hey, if you fight for us, we'll return Jerusalem to you, okay? And so the Byzantines, so the Jews win back Jerusalem and then piss off the Byzantines, so they come and they kill a lot of Jews. Now, the thing about the Jewish tradition is they believe that when they're most persecuted, when all hope is lost, the Messiah will come to save them. Okay? So the Jews are like, oh my God, the Messiah is coming, the Messiah is coming. Okay? The Nestorians also believe the Messiah is coming as well. They believe that Jesus is going to return. And all it will take is for one charismatic leader to emerge in the Arabian desert to say, I'm the Messiah, follow me. What I will promise you is this. I promise you that you will have the right to believe in whatever religion you want because the divine spark is in you and you know how to best celebrate God by yourself. I promise religious tolerance for the Jews, for the Christians, for the Arabs, for everyone. Okay? And so what will happen is this leader will emerge, and his name is Muhammad. And Muhammad will unite Arabia, and then he will unite the Nestorians, he will unite the Jews, and they will together fight to get Jerusalem back. They will fight to get against Persia. And guess what happens? They basically win without much resistance because there's so much anger, so much opposition towards the Sassanid Empire as well as the Byzantine Empire. Plus, both empires are exhausted. And so this gives us the Islamic Revolution, right? Okay? The Arabs are able to sweep through and conquer most of the world very, very quickly. But when they do so, what happens is that Muhammad dies. And now what's going to happen is they have lots of different factions, right? The Nestorians, the Jews, the Arabs as well. And they're going to fight a civil war amongst themselves as well. And then from the civil war will emerge a new religion that we call Islam.